BoomBastiCAST with your boys from the BoomBastic Films family, Alexander Hockenstein, also known as Alex Hawk,
and the great one and only Matthew Fisher.
Boom, there it is.
Yeah.
So we're gonna use this little web show podcast thingy to talk about things that we enjoy, that we think other people enjoy, and kind of keep people up to date with what BoomBastic Films is doing. So we hope to build with you and build.
Yeah.
But,
I think one of the big things is Avengers Endgame has just dropped. I personally have not seen it. But I have been. I'm one of those few people that I don't care about spoilers. I always like to hear what people think and all of that. I'm not going to be giving any spoilers away, but I do have an idea of what does happen in the film, and it kind of brings to my thought a lot of people have been talking about, which I do have to agree with, is that mainstream films been mainly focusing on doing like superhero movies and Marvel movies. You got DC, you got like any and all comic books being picked up and doing video adaptations, which are great. I'm a huge comic book fan.
Yeah.
And I love them. But I do believe there's a bit of a saturation where you got all these great, fun popcorn type movies, but there's not a lot of what I think myself, my friend Matt, and a lot of other people, I don't think there's a lot of actually groundbreaking cinema really being produced at this moment. I mean, there's a few films that I think have tried to be, good and try different new things with them. One of them I would have to say is Hereditary.
I loved Hereditary.
I think
right now, I mean, the superhero movies is what people are going out to the theaters to see. Like me personally, I don't really go see superhero movies. Nothing against them. I never, I feel like that's something that, I never read the comics and stuff like that, so I don't get as excited as other people do. I mean, I like to watch them and stuff. I caught on to the Deadpool craze like everybody did, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, getting in to see them. But like, I don't know, Origins and all that. And when people watch the movies and they get upset and say, "Oh, he'd never fucking do that," stuff like that. Like, I guess I'm lucky that I can't have the movie ruined for me by something like that. But I've heard good things already about the new Avengers movie. It's the last one, right?
Well,
that's not a spoiler, but like, isn't it supposed to be slated to be like the last one?
Well, it's the last one for, I would say, the original six. The original six, where you have Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Captain America. I mean, those were the main superheroes that you had in the first Avengers movie, and Endgame is kind of putting a cap for the most part. I do hear kind of rumors that some of them are getting their own TV shows, some of them might show up in other subsequent films that are coming up afterwards. But I know that like Doc Strange, Spider-Man, Black Panther, all of them who have done like only one like standalone film, that they have multiple, at least two more. Usually they do like 3 standalone films and then many multiple group films together.
Yeah.
And the thing about the Marvel movies is that I understand it's an easy cash cow because you already have like all these stories written. I mean, these been going on for a long time, and whenever they're like, well, okay, we did Infinity War, we did, Endgame, let's go back to the vault, see what other stories that they have done, and then let's do our own interpretations. So, which is cool. I mean, like I said, I'm a huge comic book fan, and when they started doing this, I was so excited. And I'm, but like I said before, there has to be a kind of balance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now, all you're getting is remakes, re-envisionings of things that have already been done, and you got like a whole bunch of super movies, which are a lot of fun. But I don't see anyone really trying to. There's very few people that are trying to do something different or try to expound original ideas.
It's difficult for them to get money, though, in all fairness, because the
Yeah.
studios that are giving them the $100 million, they want to know they're investing in something that the people like or a hot enough thing that they're gonna make their money back on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the Hollywood system. That's why it's so difficult to win, because like there's that there's the corporate side that you need to make that money back, so they're not really willing to go out on a limb that much, because the investors won't be there next time to invest if they lose a crazy amount of money. I mean, it goes to show, you could just by seeing what gets released and stuff, it's proof that as long as something people have the attention to go to the theater, it'll make money. Like, it doesn't have to be a good movie. It has to just grab the attention. Be it a reboot, they tap into that old audience. You've seen all these reboots now. It's because they're trying to bring in the fan base that loved it then. They go, well, if they loved it then, maybe they'll come back for a little reimagining, or if they have kids now or something, it's a kid-related thing. Well, now they'll bring, their kid to it. Like Ninja Turtles, every generation has its own Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They'll never die. Kevin Eastman will be going Fava. Even with his soul in a jar, he'll be going.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree with Matt that it is a business. I understand that, and everyone wants to make the money on it. But uh, and if no one ever took a chance on J.K. Rowling, which I mean, I would say is probably the biggest franchise that has really taken off in my lifetime. I would say that then we would never have Harry Potter. And now that was kind of an original idea and concept that, you know, blew up. So he did the books and that blew up and you have a huge cult following. And then you got all the movies and all the merchandise.
Well, I'd say it's different than writing a book's a lot cheaper than making a film, And then you'll take a movie, you'll take a franchise like Lord of the Rings that I think ushered in Harry Potter movement. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean the thing is that there has always been, fans for fantasy and all that.
Yeah, it's a big.
But and the thing with Harry Potter was she took that fantasy idea and she put it in the real world, which not saying it hasn't been done before, it has been done before, but I think it happened at just at the right time where people wanted a bit of fantasy. One of the things I find interesting about our society now is that even with Marvel films and Harry Potter is that while there's a lot of fantasy, things that, most likely can't or won't happen, we still want to have that like basis in reality that, oh, maybe it can. Maybe, I can go down and walk into Diagon Alley and or if I know the right password, I can actually jump into this other world. I mean, we all crave a sense of adventure, and I think the reason that I think we crave superhero movies and Harry Potter and all those, especially now, is because society that we live in at this moment has pretty much beaten creativity and the sense of wonder almost out of us. Every regular 9 to 5 job and all that is all about making you, be subservient and follow, the rules and regulations. And there's not a lot of
True.
thinking outside the box.
Right.
And I think that's why it's funny, because there's a lot of people putting out articles and complaining about how, the superhero movies, dumbing down people. Now everyone has kind of a adolescent mindset, and that's why, like the films that we were talking about, like Hereditary, and other films that try to do original ideas, why they don't get the funding, why they don't get the green light until, someone gets their own money together and they put it out, and then all of a sudden everyone likes it, and then they get, a lot of money for the next project. I mean, perfect examples like Jordan Peele with
Us.
with Get Out, and then he was able to do Us because of, and that's usually how it is. That I think it's not about us being in that juvenile mindset. It's more of like we're constantly being told that, okay, you have to wake up, do your job, and maybe if you're lucky enough, make enough money so you can actually enjoy your life. But a lot of people find themselves that it's not working to live but living to work kind of mindset. Yeah.
You hit the nail right on the head, man.
Yeah. Okay. I kind of get a little.
You're the working man. You're the voice of the working man.
But
Alexander Hawk is the voice.
But
of the
I
man,
mean,
it's true,
and
no,
the thing.
you.
And thing is, that is why I think that, like, the Marvel movies, the DC movies, that's why it's going to constantly be raking in money, because people need and want that like.
Is it like everybody needs a hero type thing?
Yeah, I mean,
it's.
I mean, everyone wants, and the thing is, if you can kind of base it in reality and give you that sense of wonder, that childlike fantasy, that you know Iron Man could come down and save the day, or Harry Potter and the magical world is like just around the corner. You just have to know which corner to go around, and you'll be able to be in this great fantasy world that takes you away from the crappy mundane world we live in.
Now, how old are you talking about magical worlds? What's going on?
What do you mean?
How old, you're 37-year-old man.
37, almost 38. So yeah, but I mean, the thing is, that's why I think that those things have really kind of cemented themselves in the psyche of people nowadays. And but while I agree and support, and I do love these films, I do think that we need more like Taxi Driver, like Raging Bull, like
More Scorsese movies.
Well,
I agree,
I mean, classic films that I mean, with great dialogue, great action. I mean, there's a few people now that are trying to do that, but like Matt said, that they're not really getting a lot of funding, because the big production companies, they want the sure thing. I mean, if they throw in billions of dollars on Rocket the Raccoon spin-off, they're sure that they're going to make the money back and then some.
Yeah, George Lucas didn't want to make nothing but Star Wars movies. Yeah. There's a lot of other movies he wishes he could have made, but when you're the dude that made that, if people want it, that's all they're going to let you make.
Yeah, and because everyone wants, a surefire thing. And I mean, that's one of the things that my friend Matt and myself, and I think a lot of other independent filmmakers are trying to do, is trying to give the public something a little different. Try to, bring originality and creativity kind of back into the mix, which and like I said, and it's great to go out and watch Avengers Endgame, but uh, 20, 30, 40 years from now, is it really going to be like a classic film? It's a fun film. I'm sure it is. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it is because I loved all the others. But they're still not classic films.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. What do you say? 20 years from now,
20
50
years,
years.
20.
I don't think they'll be considered classic films.
No, I mean, they're fun. I mean, but do they deal with real issues that we deal with as a society? I mean, how many of us can say that we had a battle a big Papa Smurf that
Oh,
snapped his fingers and half the population disappeared? I mean, fantasy
I
is
think
fun.
that's a metaphor for our beloved president. That's the,
Maybe.
yeah.
I never thought of that, but yeah.
So speaking of independent filmmaking,
Yes, take it away.
what does BoomBastic Films have coming in the pipeline soon?
Ooh, what does BoomBastic Films has in the
We'll
pipeline?
do a little current events, regular little current events, BoomBastic, and then we'll
Okay.
hop into a nice segment or something.
Okay. Well, we just dropped Insomniac, a short film directed by my pal Mr. Matthew Fisher.
We sure did.
Yep.
Fried it up. Insomniac. You can get at it at go check out the Facebook page for BoomBastic Films. That's BoomBastic Films. We'll have links, of course, to the pages and all that in the description of all of the videos for the BoomBastiCAST. But check that out and figure out a way to get your hands on all of the current BoomBastic films that are out there. We got the Insomniac film, Groundhog, and DJ Stan the Man. We'll be dropping all types of news and on upcoming things and what we got in the pipeline and stuff and appearances. We got our first appearance of the year. It was announced recently. I let the Hawkman.
Yeah. June. Yep. June 7th through the 9th at Framingham, Sheridan.
Sheridan in Framingham, Massachusetts. Scaricon. We're gonna have a booth there, BoomBastic Films. Me and my buddy here. We got Heather Langenkamp from Nightmare at Elm Street. I'm getting tongue-tied. There's a reunion of the Phantasm films. Don Coscarelli, Reggie Bannister, Michael A. Baldwin in there. Good. There's like 5 of them. So get a poster or something.
And the one and the only Billy Zane.
Billy
Zane's going to be there. Yeah.
Come get a nice Demon Knight poster signed or the Phantom, whatever you get down with.
Yeah. And I mean that's one of the big things coming up. We got other things that we're working on that's going to be happening. We're getting our stuff out there, and if you're interested, hit either myself, Alexander Hawk, Hauck, my friend Matthew Fisher on our Facebook page. You can get all these great films and
many a merch around it.
Oh yeah,
posters, T-shirts, soundtracks, multiple versions of DVDs. All 9 yards and all that. Keychains, some stickers, all types of crazy, beautiful things.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, check out our page or just hit the BoomBastic Films page up directly. And stay in tune. In the next couple episodes, we'll probably be announcing another appearance that we'll be doing mid-year. And we'll stay tuned for that. So, with all that stuff out of the way, we'll start our first segment of the first episode. Do you want to introduce it or?
Yep. Okay. Matt and I have been talking about, and we thought we'd do 10 AD, and what 10 AD is 10 top films of any actor that has unfortunately passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I was talking to Matt, that I think that's the only true way to really dissect and delve into an actor's work and actually pick the 10 best films that he's been in is after he's passed away. He can't make any more because you never know. The very last film someone can do can actually be like one of the best things he's ever done. I mean, perfect example is like Sir Alec Guinness. I mean, one of the last films he did was Star Wars, and he will always be remembered for Star Wars. So, the first one on the docket we're going to be doing is my personal favorite, Mr. Robin Williams. So, Matt, do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
My number 10 film that I had written down for Robin Williams was Death to Smoochie.
Death to Smoochie.
I really love when a Hollywood film does a dark comedy that pushes, really pushes the envelope there and goes for the big R rating. I always like my humor dark and dirty, and it was a great venue I think for Robin Williams and Eddie Norton in there. Danny DeVito directed it. Danny DeVito has his hand everywhere. Be surprised. Check out his resume. Be surprised the things that you see him attached to. He's a producer on Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean? He's kind of everywhere. He's been going forever. He's in Taxi way back in the day. Big respect to Danny DeVito. I love Danny DeVito. But yeah, I'd put Death to Smoochie as my number 10. How about you?
Me, for my number 10 is actually a film that probably is not really well known from Robin Williams' IMDb, which is Cadillac Man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason Cadillac Man for me makes the list is that the character he plays is he's a car salesman who he has one major problem, and that is, as he says in his own words, he loves women. So he has an ex-wife. He has two girlfriends he has at the same time, and it also stars Tim Robbins. Now, the hilarious thing is, Tim Robbins has a girlfriend that works at the car dealership that Robin Williams works at. And she's been having an affair with someone, but it's not with Robin Williams. So Tim Robbins figures something's going on, and he goes nuts. He comes and he holds everyone hostage at gunpoint, trying to find out who she's been sleeping with. And since the guy that she's actually been sleeping with is too much of a chicken shit to actually, stand up, Robin Williams says it was him. Even though he has, two women on the side and he's definitely juggling everything, he steps up and he bees a man. And what I love about this film is the fact that he's a character that knows his faults and he admits his faults, but he's also willing to step up and do what people aren't. And I always love that kind of character where you think it's easy to peg him as a philanderer or some kind of ass that just goes and plays with women's hearts, but he stands up, and because of him standing up to Tim Robbins and telling him that it was him that was sleeping with his girlfriend, in the end, everything that was going wrong in his life, he ends up back with his ex-wife. All that ends up, working out for him because he decides to do the selfless act of, taking the heat for something that he did not do.
It's very honorable.
Yeah, I mean that's why I always liked it.
And for Tim Robbins.
Yeah, well, Tim Robbins was the
dickhead.
No, the boyfriend. He's the one that
treated her wrong.
No, he treated her right.
Okay.
No, see.
I haven't watched that movie in like 20 years.
No,
I'll
no.
have to rewatch it though.
Yeah,
Make your list.
Tim Robbins was the boyfriend. She was sleeping with like the son of the guy who owned.
I own this movie too. Funny enough, I'm picturing it in my collection now. I just thought, I'm with you.
But yeah, it's a good one. I definitely recommend people to go and check it out. It's definitely one of my favorites.
I'm gonna have to revisit it. All right, number 9. For number 9, I had Good Morning Vietnam, which is a big Hawk fan favorite, I know.
Yeah, I am a big fan of the film.
It's it's one of those journeys that Robin Williams did quite often, where he would do a nice even assortment of the comedy and the dramatic stuff, which I think he's probably one of the best for doing. I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head right now that really can pull so much emotion and different emotion out of people. You know what I mean? Which is a powerful, super talent of the thing to do. But I think in that movie, it's a perfect. I think that movie is a perfect example of kind of like what he can do with the mixtures of like dramatic and comedy.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I am a big fan. I'll talk about it a little later on because it is a little higher up on my list. Yeah. Which is funny because my number 9 pick I know is my friend's Matt's higher pick is Awakenings.
Oh yeah, it is a little bit higher now.
Yeah. The reason I like Awakenings, especially for Robin Williams, is the fact that first of all it's a very dramatic film. Not saying that he doesn't do dramatic films, but this one is one of the few. Actually, I think it's the only one that I can think of where you don't see the manic, over the top, energetic Robin Williams. In Good Morning Vietnam, he's constantly moving. He is the Robin Williams that we know and love.
Truth.
In Awakenings, he is so drawn back, and that when I first watched it, I had a hard time imagining that this is like Mork from Mork and Mindy, or the genie from Aladdin, because he's so withdrawn. And he plays the role very well, but without any of the manic actions that we know from Robin Williams. And like I said, I think he did a great job with it. I do believe that there are a lot of other films he's done that he's even better at, but that is why it's on the list, because it's such a departure from what he has done before.
Agreed. We're going with 8 next, which would be, keeping with Insomniac, a film called Insomnia.
Oh, yeah.
Directed by a younger Christopher Nolan.
Ooh, I think I know that guy.
I think that was his first Hollywood film, right?
I think it definitely was one of his earliest.
Yeah, this movie made my list because it's a special place in my heart. This movie and another movie on my list came out roughly around the same time, both serious films. Like I said before, I really like Robin Williams' darker, serious stuff too, as well as the comedy. But I thought it was, I always liked the idea of in Alaska, where it's nighttime for, what is it, a month or something like that, or something?
Yeah,
something weird, or
week
or something crazy.
Yeah,
but yeah, the fact that I always liked that thing. I thought it was a great little, fun fact that would make for a good movie. And you got a super talented director, you got a great cast. So I think it's a really solid film. It's more than just your typical. Was that late '90s? I think.
Oh yeah, I think
it's more of you. It's more than your typical '90s thriller, which was big at the time. It's your '90s thriller done by a masterful director, I guess, at a time when he's still trying to get people to like him with his films. You know what I mean? What was your number 8?
Number 8 for me was Jumanji.
Classic, yeah.
Now, Jumanji, I would say Jumanji and the next two that I'm going to talk about are very similar in the type of roles that he's most known for, which is a child in a man's body. And now, when I was young, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Jumanji actually was a children's book before it was made into a movie. And when I was young, it was one of my favorites. So when it was made into a movie, I was extremely excited. Of course, they did take liberties from the book when they made it into the movie, but Robin Williams as Alan Paris made you could, with all the crazy stuff that was going on with crazy monkeys, huge mosquitoes, and all of that, you could believe in everything in that world because of Robin Williams' portrayal. And what is great about him is that throughout the entire time you could feel that this is a young kid that has been, transported into this mythical world where, he spent most of his life growing up, but he never really grew up because, he's still that child inside that, older man body. And that was the beauty of Robin Williams. Was there's a lot of actors that have played roles. You can look at Tom Hanks from Big, where they play a kid in an older person's body. But Robin Williams is the only one, I think, that like capsulates that idea. And when he capsulates that idea, there's no false movement. You believe that he is a child, and that's one of the things that I loved about his performances.
Yeah, I agree. Jumanji didn't make my list, but I'm a big fan. I loved it as a kid, as a youngster. Okay, 7 are we at?
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 would be the next film to go with Insomnia, which is the 1 hour photo. Thought that was a little better. That was almost borderline horror, I'd say. It was a very psychological thriller. I remember the scene with the eyes bleeding and this nightmare that he has. Yeah. So that was a weird time, and it was creepy. I mean, the elements he created, him and the director really created an incredibly creepy character, and credit needs to be given because not often can you have a celebrity or actor at that stardom and still make them that creepy. Like, if you go back and rewatch that movie, he's incredibly creepy, like super duper creepy, and it's just it's just how good he's, it's how good he was, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'd say that because it was such a there's it that character is why I give that movie. I listed the movie. Yeah, just creepy, just all out creepiness. I haven't seen a character leading it, like at the time that I watched that. I haven't seen a character that creepy since many years before that. Shit. Off the top of my head, I can't even think of the last time. Maybe Christopher Lloyd and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Trying to think back to the time and such, which was a few years before that, but about 6 or 7. But like, yeah, that's the last one I can think of being that creepy. But yeah, so that was my number 7, and for creep factor. How about you?
Well, number 7 is the genie from Aladdin. Now Robin Williams has done a lot of voiceover work. He's done a lot of animation, but it's the only one that I put on this list. and the reason is because his portrayal of the genie is so iconic. You can't think of of anyone else who could have done that role in such a way. The different voices, the different characters, and of course the genie was, I would say, the epitome of Robin Williams, because if Robin Williams could have been a magical entity, it would have been the genie, because I'm constantly jumping back and forth.
He's the genie now, Alex. He's the genie now.
When I heard they were doing a live action version of Aladdin, and that they had Will Smith as
what do you think of that?
I was really disappointed. Now, I got nothing against Will Smith. I think he's a great actor, very talented, but especially since it'd be one thing if they were doing. The story of Aladdin has been around for a long time, and if they did Aladdin, but not a remake of the Disney's version of Aladdin, then I'd be totally on board, and Will Smith would be perfect.
Yeah.
But they're, of course, trying to make it the a live action version of the original cartoon, which you can't do that, unfortunately, without Robin Williams, because his portrayal of the genie. I mean, there's no one who will ever be another Robin Williams, and you can't even find someone who can do a really authentic interpretation, I guess is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I mean, all the power to them, but it goes back to what I said with Jumanji. To make the genie the way it was, that you needed someone who had the childlike innocence. Will Smith doesn't have that. Nothing against him, but I have not seen anything where Will Smith has touched into that kind of childlike innocence of like, oh my God, yes, I'm here, there, I'm over there, and that was the genie. That's what I grew up with, and why Aladdin was like one of my favorite all-time Disney films. And that is why it made the list, because it's another film that encapsulated what it meant to be Robin Williams.
You gonna watch the new Aladdin?
Or
at what point?
If it comes out on DVD, or
I'm sure it will.
I'll watch it. Yeah, I mean,
I think they got plans of a DVD release, maybe a Blu-ray too.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes on DVD, I'll probably check it out.
You gonna buy it? Or you gonna Redbox
it? The cheapest version.
Wait for the Netflix.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Disney. Disney has cut ties with Netflix. But yeah, so I mean that's my opinion when it comes to Aladdin.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you, man. Aladdin's a good time. I don't know how I feel about the Will Smith thing. The picture looked real goofy. I haven't seen the trailer, but the picture definitely looked goofy.
I mean, I looked at the trailer, and but like it said, it's Will Smith is a talented actor, but him playing the genie is like if you had Robert De Niro playing Forrest Gump. I mean, Robert De Niro is a great actor, but he could not play the role of Forrest Gump the way like Tom Hanks would. And because of Tom Hanks playing Forrest Gump the way he did, that's why Forrest Gump is a great film. I mean, there's certain actors that after you see him in a certain role, if you try to put someone else in, it just doesn't work.
Right.
And that's a perfect example I see with what they've done now.
I'm with you. So number 6, I have Dead Poets Society. That's another one of his dramatic, serious films. You know, I like those, dark life movies type deal. Great name too. I love the name. Love that name. Always love that name forever. What'd you have for number 6?
Number 6, I had Hook. Now, as I've been saying with Jumanji, with Aladdin, Hook, I say, is the crown jewel when it comes to roles that he's done where it's a child in a man's body. And one of the reasons why I put it higher up than the other two is the fact that there's a lot of different um, novels and that have been made into films. You got Alice in Wonderland, you got Wizard of Oz, and you got Peter Pan. And in this case, there's no one who could have played the grown-up version of Peter Pan better than Robin Williams.
Agreed.
I mean, honestly, it's when you think Peter Pan, even if you were a huge fan of Hook or you weren't, growing up, you can't help but think of Robin Williams, because what Peter Pan embodies, which is the idea of never wanting to grow up, always wanting to be a kid, always want to live in that fantasy, creative, kind of bubble that you are when you're a child. That is Robin Williams incarnated, and he exudes that. And him playing, the grown up Peter Pan, honestly, is one of those dreams come true where you got a great literary character and a great actor, and you meld them, and it's like it was meant to be. It's like God decided that he was going to create an actor just for that role. And in my opinion, Robin Williams was that. And that's why he'll always be one of my all-time favorites. Definitely in like I said, in my top 10s. I mean, there are those that, of course, as we go on, that I put up higher on the list. But Hook is definitely one of the best roles that Robin Williams ever had.
That's why Rufio hated him so much.
Yeah, because he was like, man, I want to be Peter Pan.
Right, he did.
Damn you, Robin Williams.
Classic Dustin Hoffman in there, too.
Oh, yeah.
You can't forget that performance.
Oh, and
your boy, Who Framed Roger Rabbit himself.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins. And also, for those who don't know, Miss Glenn Close was also in it.
Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell as well.
Yeah. If you don't know, Glenn Close actually plays a small role in Hook. If you remember, there's a scene where Hook talks about one of the pirates said that he couldn't capture Peter Pan's children and bring them back, and he points out one of the pirates, and it was Glenn Close in the beard. And it's funny. I mean, you would never know because he doesn't really say anything, and of course, great prosthetics. But I was reading up on Hook, and that was one of the interesting things. And for those Marvel fans out there, Miss Pepper Potts played Wendy in one of her incarnations in the movie Hook.
I like it.
Yeah.
Hook's good. So we're going for number 5, I think it was?
Yep.
5 for 5, I have a Boston current, modern classic, I guess you could say, that was shot here. The great Good Will Hunting. Okay. Love this film. Ever since I've seen it, loved it. Gave me a little pride and some of that Massachusetts filmmaking, and it was so big, that everybody, it was like the movie of the year, you know what I mean, won the Academy Awards, I think, at least for writing. I think Ben and Matt won writing. You ever hear the rumor that they think that Kevin Smith did a little ghost writing on that?
Well, I mean, could be. I don't know. I do find it interesting, and I'm not putting shade on on Matt or Ben.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do find it interesting that they wrote Good Will Hunting, but I mean, I don't think they've written any other screenplays after that.
No, but I don't really blame them. Cause they wrote Good Will Hunting to send them off in the direction. They won the Academy Award. They gave themselves careers, and it's a very judgmental medium. So my take on it is kind of like why I feel Robert De Niro doesn't really do good acting jobs anymore. It's because everything if you go out there and really try, it's gonna be compared to other things. Well, it's not as good as that, or it's not as good as this thing he did.
I guess.
I think with Ben and Matt, I think they probably look at it like go out on top. You know what I mean? Like, it was probably work. They probably had to work hard just to get that done, just to get that movie made. It was like their first script, and they were actors that weren't as famous as, weren't even a percentage probably as famous as they are now.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they had to take a lot of losses and stuff to get that movie made. And Gus Van Sant directed, which I'm sure, that wasn't a cheap thing. You know what I mean? He was an established director at that time, So, and in the late 90s, that was a late 90s thing too, right?
I think so.
So that was, he was doing, that was probably right after To Die For, which is a classic, probably one of my favorite Gus Van Sant movies. But yeah, I really loved that. I thought that was great. Our buddy Billy McAdams worked on that. He's got a cool Robin Williams story. But yeah, I think, there was just again, with the Robin Williams and the comedic and the dramatic stuff, where it's not so much comedic, but there's certain things that make you like an uncomfortable laughter. Like he's got layers of dramatic and comedic stuff where, like the scene where he's talking about his wife, and he grabs Matt Damon by the throat, and he's like, I'll fucking end you, and like all that. Like that, I always laugh at that scene because it's so uncomfortable and real that like it makes you like nervous, like have a nervous reaction to it. You know what I mean? Because it's very deep and very in it at that moment, and like you feel it. It's unraveling, the story of the wife and what happened and stuff. And it's a guy, Robin Williams is a guy that I think his character when the wife passed, I think he kind of try to just move forward and not think about it. So when has to go back and think about it and look on it, because Matt Damon's character's bringing it up, it upsets him. It makes him angry. That's why he does that. And, Matt Damon's character has his own shit going on. It's dark. It's a very dark but like hopeful movie. You know what I mean? There's silver linings in there of what could be. True underdog story, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm a big fan. I think, it's one of my favorite films ever shot in our city, our state. So yeah, I had to give that props on the list somewhere. Yeah. What was your 5?
Well, actually, this is a first.
Ooh.
This is a first. Matt and I agree exactly on the placing.
Oh my goodness!
Good Will Hunting is number 5 on my list too. And I mean, I don't have much more to add to it. Just that I totally agree that what makes that film great is the fact that Robin Williams was the master of drama and also comedy, because he had his little parts of throwing in his little humor, but it worked and it felt right with the scene. And I mean, his monologues, I mean, to this day, whenever I want like a touching monologue, I always watch those scenes over and over again, because when he's on that park bench and he's talking about, these things that you could tell me about. I could ask you about love, and you can read me a sonnet, but you don't know how it feels to really feel like vulnerable. I mean, that monologue within itself, is so moving and so just so real and raw. That's why it's definitely one of the best films that and best roles he's ever had, and that's why I definitely have to put it on the list at number 5.
That park bench scene, I believe. Billy told me a story about that where like that the day of the shoot, they came in and they gave him a revised version of that speech, and he took it and he walked over to the corner of the park for like 15 minutes, went over it, came back, and did the whole thing in one take. Yeah. So he was something else. He was a marvel, Yeah. So number 4. For number 4, I have a classic film from childhood, directed by the great Robert Altman. Film called Popeye. Harry Nilsson, great soundtrack too. I'll mention. You have Shelley Duvall as Olive Oil. Man, I forget right now off the top of my head who plays Pluto, but he's like a notable person. But Shelley Duvall was like created on this earth to play Olive Oil. You know what I mean? Like she is the living incarnation of Olive Oil. But I love that movie because it's such a cross between, to go into the big man over here talking about fantasy stuff. It's a weird entering that world. And that's what's so cool about Popeye is it's like you grow up watching the cartoon or whatever, and then you watch this movie, and even the town that it's in is real weird and fictional and not really, it just doesn't surrealistic. Doesn't even seem like, it seems like a cartoon almost. It's very, very animated and cartoon like, and all the characters are in there, which is, if you watch the cartoon, I think you would love the movie. And I love that movie. I think great. And again, the soundtrack is fucking off the hook, yo. So, what do you got there for number 4?
Oh, number 4?
Yeah.
Number 4, The Fisher King.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Classic.
It's one of those films which you have Robin Williams as a homeless man that ends up Jeff
Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges is a shock jock, and he ends up making the offhanded comment to a guy about killing all of the yuppie scum, and that guy
caller, yeah,
and he actually goes out and does it, and of course because of that, Jeff Bridges falls on tough times, and he ends up bumping into this homeless man who actually ends up saving him from being beaten by some hooligans. And he finds out that his wife got killed by the guy that he just made the offhanded comment to. So he kind of has this need to help Robin Williams' character, but the end result is Robin Williams is the one that helps him, kind of look at the world differently and deal with his own issues. And that's the great thing about Robin Williams and this character is that you look at him, you're like, oh, he's kind of odd, he's out there, he you can't really see him as almost as a cartoon person. You can't see him as a real person, but when you sit down and you look at him, I mean, I've seen and I've dealt with people just like Robin Williams' character, and he has so much heart and soul that even when he's doing these crazy antics, when he's in Central Park and he's telling Jeff Bridges to strip naked and run around naked, you can say, okay, that's crazy, but when Robin Williams does that, you can you almost want to strip down naked and run around naked with him because.
Speak for yourself, man. Shit.
But I mean, he just has that energy that just brings you in, and that uh, I guess beautiful soul, and it just exudes when he played that character. I thought that really just brought me into this world where he thinks that he's a knight trying to find the Holy Grail, and yeah, it's yeah, I thought it was definitely one of his best roles. It really just grabbed you and brought you into it.
Yeah, that was my number 3 actually. Beautifully directed by the imaginative Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which right there sets it in a whole different category. You know what I mean? There's not much more to say. What you've said. It's a great dramatic film. It's one of those. It's one of those don't judge a book by the cover type humanity stories. You know what I mean? Which was really cool. The Fisher Kings are a great double feature movie with. Have you ever seen Talk Radio, the Oliver Stone movie?
I know of it. Actually, I have to admit I haven't seen
The
it.
Talk Radio is a great, very underrated movie. It's like they're both like about almost shock rock people. Talk Radio is gonna vary, and like Howard Stern. They're both kind of like Howard Sterny. I think they're both probably influenced by the craze of Stern when he first popped off in like the early '90s, whatever it was. But yeah, The Fisher King is a great film. Great film, very creative. I love how creative Gilliam's movies are. I'm looking forward to his new one that's going to be.
Oh yeah,
soon,
that's
Don Quixote one.
Yeah, Don Quixote.
Took him a while to make that, I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fisher King all day long. My teacher used to call me that back in high school, so it's a fun little fact. My number 2 film, number 2 slot for Robin Williams, is The World According to Garp. John Irvin book turned into a film. Directed by who directed that? That was shit. I know the guy did like Funny Farm and a bunch of other stuff. His name escapes me at this moment. But World According to Garp, it's one of those like coming of age life movies almost, where like you meet this kid named Garp, and it's almost a Forrest Gump type thing where you just like you travel. Garp's a little more intelligent, I think, than Gump. Garp. We're on to something here now. I think we're on to something. If you think about it. But yeah, it's one of those, through. Now that I do that, I think somebody said when they with Forrest Gump, they said we're gonna make a Garp movie, but we're gonna turn it into Gump. But yeah, it's that journey. John Lithgow is like the transgender, the football player dude who turned it for the. That whole movie is wild. You know what I mean? And like the ending is crazy. Like, what did you take out of the ending? Did you take that he died? Or did you take that he just kind of drifts unconscious or so, or we fade to black on a reminiscing of life type thing?
Well, to be perfectly honest, The World According to Garp is kind of in the same category as you were with Cadillac Man for me.
Yeah.
Where I have seen it, and it is a good movie, but I haven't seen it for many years. I have to admit, I remember bits and pieces of it, and I remember that the dog bit him, so later he bit the dog.
Do you remember when his wife bit the dog in the car? Do you remember that moment?
I don't think it was a dog that she bit.
Some type of dog.
Yeah. It resembled a hot dog, I think.
Yeah, that was one of those when you're young and you got those moments of
whoa.
Yeah. It's just I want to say it even has like that old school film effect where like it's the flash screen where it's like Friday the 13th did it a bunch with in the earlier ones, but it's like and then it's like the black and white like still frame type shit. Yeah, Garp's a cool epic film. It's a journey of a life, which I always can enjoy, especially if it's an interesting journey, which it definitely is an interesting journey. A lot of weird, dark things happen. You know, yeah, John Lithgow, man, doing it big.
Yeah.
What was your number 2?
Well, actually, I'll just jump back a bit. My number 3.
Oh, I skipped your
Yeah,
3?
that's okay,
I
dude.
think I've done that before, too.
That's okay. My number 3 actually was one that Matt has already mentioned, which is 1 Hour Photo. Now, it made number 3 for me because it's kind of also the same reason why Awakenings ended up on my list, is because it's one of the few movies that he's in and you don't see Robin Williams. You see, someone totally different. I remember I was talking to a few friends after a 1 Hour Photo came out, and I made comment about Robin Williams doing a great job. They're like, wait a minute, he's in the movie? Who did he play in the movie? I didn't see Robin Williams. I was like, he plays the lead, and they're like, that's not Robin. But I mean, that was a perfect example of Robin Williams, having a role and becoming someone different. I mean, one of the things about Robin Williams is he had such a specific style and all that you could always pick him out of no matter what movie he played. But 1 Hour Photo was such a departure and such a dark, gritty, and emotional roller coaster. And the reason it worked is the same, going back to Jumanji, Aladdin, and Hook, is that he was still a boy in a man's body, but the difference is this is a boy that has been abused. This is a boy that has seen the darkness of mankind, and because of that, he has been extremely damaged, and he is, doesn't know how to deal with society, and that's why the ending where he's going on his monologue and he's pouring out to the cop about given the backstory, because you don't really know his backstory when watching the film. The only time you get is at the end, and I think that was the best part of it, was now you understand why he is like he is, and you could start seeing the childlike innocence, especially when he's looking at the pictures he actually did take, and that's why it worked so well, in my opinion, with him playing that role, and why he was able to become, because he was playing a type of character he's played before, but he played it in a total 180 degrees, and that's why he did such a great job with it. Now going to my number 2 spot, I actually put Dead Poets Society, which is another great film where he hits all the emotional buttons, where he's a teacher trying to teach kids to think outside the box, and anyone, especially nowadays, going to school that's frowned upon, and he worked at a school that it was frowned upon, and that's why they went after him, because Robin Williams is his portrayal of that role. I I read an article where he made comment that when he was playing that role, he played it as a teacher that he wished he had when he was a kid, and I felt the same way. I wish I could. I mean, there's maybe one or two teachers I had that inspired me, but only one and two, and it's a very rare thing now, having teachers and people that inspire you and want to make you, you know, think outside the box, try something different. And Robin Williams just excelled in that role. I mean, at the end with the whole "Captain, my Captain" speech, if you aren't sobbing by the end of that film, then you have no heart. What's your number 1?
My number 1 is Awakenings. Penny Marshall directed Awakenings, co-starring Bobby D. to go into a little more of what you said when you had it as your film is, yeah, it's one of those things. I think it's one of his best dramatic ones. There's really no comedy in it. It's more of a straight dramatic one, which at the time of that, I think he was coming off of that. It was probably one of his first, probably couple dramatic things. So like it was a nice change for him. I think he's great in that. I think De Niro. I think that's one of De Niro's best films. I think when people talk about the days of Bobby D being the greatest actor next to Alex Hawke that there ever was. And I always tell people to go check out Awakenings because, there's a scene in Awakenings where De Niro is Leonard Lowe's character, who, what disease was that? It was a MS.
Oh, I think it's MS.
I think it was MS, and no spoiler because the movie's been out for 30 years, but Robin Williams starts him on a new medicine and starts to help him. And, he's starting to become around and become, normal and be able to, not be shaky and stuff. And he's developing friends and stuff. And there's a female in the film that I think he has the hots for, that he starts to have lunch with her. And she thinks he's somebody visiting family that's there. And he's really impatient. And all the while his life is getting better. But then the medicine stops working and he starts to get the twitching back and stuff. And the way De Niro plays that is just incredible. There's a big scene where he's talking to Robin Williams and he's talking about how Robin Williams is the one that's really asleep and handicapped because he doesn't have faith in himself or something like that. It was some weird, deeply emotional, touching,
yeah. I think the big thing was he was pointing out to Robin that he could be living life, but he wasn't. He was too scared.
You're the one that's asleep. I'm not asleep. I remember that part. It's just wow. It's one of those moments when you stop having movies on, you stop talking and just watch it and go, ooh, wow, that's something. We're watching something here. And that's why, that's why I put that as number one. Because I really, that movie is a very dramatic film, like most of them. But there's something about that movie that, for me, it's number one because it's just superb. It's, superbly directed and superbly acted by everybody that's in it. And, I think that's why it claims the spot. And I think it'd probably be high ups on his list, too, you know what I mean? There's a lot of great. De Niro's the only one who's alive now out of the triple threat that was that film, which is interesting. But what was your number one?
Number one for me was a film that my friend Matt did mention earlier on, and that is Good Morning Vietnam. Now, the reason this is the ultimate top, in my opinion, is that this is the role that I think encapsulates all of Robin Williams. You got the drama, you got the humor, you have the real life, backdrop of the Vietnam War, and it's one of those films that I can't help but watch, more than once, more than twice, a lot of times, and every time I watch it, just listening to Robin Williams with the jokes constantly going one after another. There's no stopping. He was the king of improv. He was the king of off the cuff. His mind worked faster than anybody that has ever done comedy, in my opinion. I have never seen anyone who's able to think that fast, and that's why I always consider him a marvel. And Good Morning Vietnam, in my opinion, was the one role and the one film where he encapsulated everything that was meant to be Robin Williams. And he made you, he made you sad, he made you laugh, and that was what he gave to us when he was alive, which was, you know, just a great soundboard on issues, and on, and every time when you felt like you couldn't go on another day, you watch Robin Williams, even in a drama like Good Morning Vietnam, and it just perked up your day, and the idea of just him in Vietnam, which was, I mean, a shit show to begin with, right? And there's a point where you have Forrest Whitaker. He's taking Robin Williams' character back to a plane to fly him out, and Robin Williams pretty much was down on himself and saw himself as not helping, or being, you know, being kind of useless, not being able to get out what's really going on in the war, and Ford stops the car in front of a whole bunch of other buses with men who are just going out to die, pretty much, to fight and die, and seeing that, you know, just the little bit of humor, the little bit of hope that he put out there, you know, made it possible for these young men to go out and fight for, you know, our country with, you know, a little bit of hope, and in that kind of fucking shit show of a situation, you need someone like that, and that's what Robin Williams was, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Patch Adams?
I like Patch Adams. I mean, I think Patch Adams, kind of glossed over a lot of things. I mean, it was a good fun thing, but I don't think it had as much, I guess, gravitas as I think it should have. My personal
How about
opinion.
that ending? That was the best part.
Yeah.
It was messed up, but I
Yeah.
mean, it was that moment that you feel something. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
you really go, ooh. You see, just when I say best part doesn't mean it's gonna make you feel good.
Yeah,
it's
that's
the part
true.
that really makes you go,
And that's
makes
one.
you feel something. You
Yeah,
know what
I mean that's one of the things that I think is missing from a lot of films nowadays, is that while it's great to go to escape to watch films like the Avengers, where you got, you know, the good guys, the win. You'll have some of those that you love that do end up dying, but it's still kind of a connect, because there's no one like Iron Man. You can't say that this is in a realm of reality. But when you're dealing with like Patch Adams, like Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poets Society, you know, I mean, it's rooted in our lives. It's rooted in reality, and because of that, they will always, in my opinion, be so powerful and so important to us to keep on making movies like these. Your thoughts?
No, I agree. You know what I mean? Let me see here. Did you ever see Boulevard?
No, I don't think so.
I own it. I haven't watched it yet. I'm trying to think of other. What Dreams May Come. I've never seen it, but I was told I should see it. People like it.
I saw What Dreams May Come. I have to admit, I thought it was a good idea. Unfortunately, I really did not connect with it.
It'd be a trip to watch now, probably, right?
Probably. I mean, my biggest problem is, I mean, I'm all down for films taking their time and going at a slow pace, but I thought What Dreams May Come just kind of just dragged too much.
Yeah.
and it got to a point where it had a lot of cool visuals, but it just didn't touch me on an emotional basis, like Dead Poets Society or Fisher King or Good Morning Vietnam,
Right.
and or any of the other ones. I mean, all the ones on the list touched me emotionally in one way or the other, and unfortunately, What Dreams May Come really didn't, and that's why it didn't make my top 10. I do have to say, I do have an honorable mention.
Yeah.
Of Now, this is one of the last films he ever did, and that was The Angriest Man in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Now, the reason I give it an honorable mention is before, unfortunately, Robin Williams took his life, I believe he was diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that. And when I watched it now, I don't know the exact timing of all of this, but I believe that he found that out before he did this film, or during him doing this film, because when you watch the film, and here's a man who finds out that he has a brain aneurysm, he's an angry man to begin with, and that he could die at any moment, and of course he's yelling at Mila Kunis, telling me, "How long do I have?" And she finally gives him some ridiculous amount of time he has left. And anyone who knows about brain aneurysms is you can't really quantify when it's going to hit. And if you sit down and you watch him trying to make amends with everyone, try to interact with him, and kind of make up for his shortcomings of being a kind of pretty much an asshole that he's been most of his life in this short period of time, it just felt like it was Robin Williams, not this character, trying to make up for all the decisions, whether they were right or wrong, and trying to work through this pain. And unfortunately, like I said, I can't say what was in his mind or anything like that, but I think when he got the news about this illness, he saw that as robbing it from the. I mean, Robin Williams has had many different issues throughout the years, um, and I think finding out about Parkinson's, it was like the one thing that was going to rob him of the thing that made him him. And The Angriest Man in Brooklyn felt, when I watched it, as him walking through the frustration, the anger, the pain of finding out that he now has this disease that things are just going to get worse. It's not, he wasn't going to be able to get better or just walk through this.
Yeah.
And I felt watching the film that was kind of his way of dealing with the news. So I mean that's what I thought.
Yeah. Did you see World's Greatest Dad?
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's a good one. It's dark comedy, directed by Bobcat Goldthwait. We're talking about some Shakes the Clown.
Yeah, I have to say, I do appreciate it. It's funny because I always I enjoyed Bobcat, of course, back in the 80s.
The voice era.
Yeah, with Police Academy and
Trot the Trot.
Yeah, all those films. But I have to say honestly, with God Bless America, Shakes the Clown, I think Bobcat Goldthwait is a great director.
He is, yeah.
And my honest opinion is, I hope that he keeps on making films because he has such a dark sense of humor, which I think, unfortunately, in mainstream media is very lacking. And I think
frowned upon.
Yeah, I think you need kind of a dark sense of humor to get through life. I mean, if you can't, I mean, it's like what my parents always called gallows humor. I mean, that's because life is dark and depressing, and the only way to get through it is you gotta find the humor in it, even if you're standing up there with the noose around your neck.
Robin Williams style. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Alex Hawke in a Bobcat movie.
Hey, I would love that.
That'd be fun.
I mean, Bobcat, if by chance you see this, hey, let me know. I'll be there. I'll do anything. I would love to be in a Bobcat Goldthwait movie.
I'm an associate producer on the new Police Academy documentary, Bobcat.
Yeah, hey, hit us up.
We're connected. Let's do it. But yeah, so that probably wraps it up with the Robin Williams top 10 AD.
Yep.
You know, it's very unfortunate what happened with him. He was a great talent. You know, you can tell great talent by looking at their work and thinking to yourself, can somebody else do what this person did? And a lot of the cases with Robin Williams, you can see the roles he did, and you can't think of anybody else that could play that part. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that right there goes to show you how talented and one of a kind he was.
Yeah.
And he will be missed, and it's a very unfortunate thing. You know, I remember hearing that was a kick in the gut, you know, a couple months after Hoffman, right? Philip Seymour.
Yeah, we lost both Hoffman and Robin Williams in the same year.
Yeah, I mean, the Robin Williams one I felt was a little more of a blow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sadder, you know, it's a sadder thing. They both both were kind of suicides, I guess, when you think about it. But yeah, you know, it's a crazy thing, you know. But yeah, you know, he'll be missed. He left a body of work behind him that'll live on, and as long as people continue to show his movies and, you know, share stories and their favorite films of his and all that, he'll always live on.
Yeah,
as they say. You know, there, like we were talking about earlier, in 1989, there was a short film made starring Robin Williams as Peter Pan. Right?
Yeah, I mean, actually,
I would like to see it. Yeah.
Actually, since there's one thing. Now I know this is kind of bucking against. We only did film work, but as we both know that Robin Williams did also a lot of TV.
Mm-hmm.
There is one guest spot appearance Robin Williams did that I do want to make a comment about, and that was Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever saw that.
I think I did actually. Yeah.
Where I forget all the specifics, but pretty much his wife was in the hospital, and the doctor, you know, made a suggestion to Robin Williams' character, and of course Robin Williams, you know, agreed with the doctor because, you know, the doctor knows all. The doctor
knows best.
The doctor is, and of course, the doctor's decision was the wrong decision, and ended up his wife died.
Oof.
And Robin Williams kind of took upon himself doing kind of these mind games, where he actually drove the doctor to, I think, you know, like, drive himself into a ditch and die. And when he becomes on the radar of the Special Victims Unit, he's pretty much, I mean, he called up like a fast food restaurant, getting an employee to, you know, like, humiliate and degrade another employee. And of course, the whole point behind it was, you know, people are too willing to follow those that they consider an authority, and of course those in authority can, you know, convince and manipulate to do things that aren't right, taking away kind of your free will and all of that. And it was a nice. It was a change because it was, you know, Robin Williams doing a creepier character and also a very damaged character. And it was, I mean, when I saw him on the Special Victims Unit, I was blown away and reminded, how great of an actor he was. And in the end, he decides to run away, and his character pretty much walks into one of the you know bodies of water, and drowns himself instead of being taken in by the
Robin Williams does?
yeah.
Oh, really?
And but it was one of those interesting roles that kind of took me by surprise, and reminds me that there was no end to his ability to transform himself from someone that from who we grew up knowing and loving to someone totally different.
Mm.
But I mean, that's the only other thing I can think of.
How'd you feel when he died? When you first heard that he died?
Oh, I was in shock. I mean, we all have actors, writers, people that inspire us, people that we look up to, and has a great impact on our lives. And a lot of them have died throughout our own lives. And Robin Williams is, I have to say honestly, the first one where I literally was really heartbroken. Um, I mean, there are those that have passed that, I mean, like Philip Seymour Hoffman and Leslie Nielsen, other actors that I like, and was sad when they left. But Robin Williams was the one that really, I really felt sad about his passing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. You never expect him to do it. You know what I mean? He's always so upbeat and happy and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and that proves with as we see on Facebook and other social medias, is that sometimes the face of depression is these happy smiling people. And 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 the thing is, it reminds us that we have to look at those that we consider to be upbeat and like the life of the party, that they might be suffering, um, and we don't know anything about it. And that's why you gotta keep your eyes open for the warning signs, and just be there as a friend, try to help them through the dark time. That's why I keep this guy around. He keeps
the only
me
reason, yeah.
He keeps me out of the dark, and I try to keep him out of the dark. So
We get a light, like Kurt Cobain. Well, Kurt Cobain is in the darkness too. Bad example. Well, thanks for listening and watching the first episode. You can catch us. If you're not catching us here, you can catch us on Facebook, BoomBastic Films. Our name's Alexander Hawk, Matthew Fisher. There's an Alexander Hawk fan page for his acting. Check that out for sure. I do another show called Shock Treatment with Mel and Maddie on www.990wbob.com, usually on Tuesdays live, but there's an archives if you want to listen to more stuff. But we'll have many more of these pumping out to you.
Yeah.
So with that, thank you, and we'll see and hear you on episode 2. Dose.
Dose.
Peace, Hawk.
Peace.